levels this matters. And that's why I'm looking at a rural environment with just dirt roads, zero infrastructure, some electricity possibly, or maybe not. But yes, they brought in this wonderful public library with the lines and everything piped in, and they said this little first world bubble with its full telecommunications power and knowledge access that they blessed the whole community with. And now, how can we provide these people that are very gifted that opportunity to say, go for it?
I often have the feeling when I walk in the museums in Washington or the British Museum in London, and I just say, oh my goodness, if I were to have visited the British Museum as a child, God knows where I would have ended up. I mean, the stimulation, the I mean, the
compared to the Transvaal Museum, for example.
You don't want to go there. Yeah. So, no, I'm with you. I have a thing about this grit and self-efficacy. I almost want to start with a disclaimer to say, yes, it is possible to pick yourself up by your bootstraps. And it is possible, but it's almost one of all those factors. And then something happens. You walk into a room, and there's a moment.
But there needs to be a light that lit you up. And then often if something lights up in you, nothing can put it out. And
but often, this sounds very Buddhist, but often you're not ready for that light then.
Yes, but sometimes that light came and it prepared the soil for later when whatever lights you up. This was instrumental in adding you for that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to what you mentioned with this first world bubble as a public library in a rural community.
Yeah.
I've done quite a bit of reading on this for like Rwanda and Uganda, and there they don't have a culture of reading. They have this kind of sage on the stage still.
Yeah.
So what has worked there is they actually have the elder that is a storyteller, and they connect to those people and provide them with resources. So it's much more oral still. So it taps into the culture they already have, versus trying to bring in this telecenter, or in some places that could work. But it has, the telecenter thing did not work. They ported that from Ireland and into...
It doesn't work.
Okay, so they empowered somebody who was a legitimate voice in the community.
Okay, but
is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
But
they're tapping into the culture that is already in the community and empowering, rather than coming in from outside.
With a new model.
With this model, and you now changing power relations. Because now this person who had esteem, their culture is the elders have wisdom. Now you're saying, oh, but the wisdom is in this piece of machinery.
Yeah, it's like the Inyanga, that is empowered, and they say, and then if we can just persuade the Inyanga to speak about hygiene and this and that and the other, but not mess with their own knowledge and so forth, but just add to it to help prevent certain things.
So this is kind of
funnel it through someone.
This sense kind of capability. What is the situation there? And Kleiner developed it into kind of a choice frame to empower the options that are feasible.
But now I'm wondering something. I want to be a little naughty here. It seems like a deliberate choice was made with this model to say, let's not try and replace the model and mess with power relationships and so forth, but play within the power structure and so forth. The obvious risk within that is it could be exploited, and some people could be excluded, and my own family really benefited, but that neighbor family we don't like, those noisy people, they're out of the game, that kind of problem.
But don't you think that the same thing would happen, and it's even worse with what if you're bringing in a community, a telecenter or a community mediated center?
So that's why I want to be
bigger
naughty.
impact.
Isn't it possible to do a bit of both without seeing if you can just in a low level bring in some access, but the real thing is to please the power structures.
To give the key to the chief. To give the key to this
But
first world
because
bubble.
you know, right when we started our conversation, I said I'm trying to avoid binary decisions. To say, okay, instead of us doing this, let us do that, that kind of thing. But saying,
But this is avoiding that because
Yeah.
we're not giving everyone. So maybe in a certain rural area, it may work to do that community center. That there may be some phones and they may already have that culture,
Yeah.
and others they don't. So it is a continuum where it can
Yeah.
develop.
I like the word continuum. Yeah.
Yeah, what I hear in what you say and in the question that you raise is a sensitivity to context and the existing power relations. And I hear what Jacques says, that no matter what we introduce, it
It is
may
an
enhance
integration.
that power of that person, and it will not necessarily change the power relationship. But what Dorothy Kelly, we got her, she's on Twitter as Women of Uganda Network, on introducing mobile technologies to the north of Uganda. Amazing stuff where she would have workshops for females, introducing them to the wonders of this. But then she would have an invitation, and then the men would come with the wives. The wives are not allowed to come on their own, and she's okay with that. And the men will sit on the chairs, and the women will sit on the floor, and Dorothy doesn't touch that. She accepts that, to say she hates that, but that at least then the men also hear the message, and the woman gets what she wants. So it's sort of a
So you play the hand that you dealt.
yeah. So if that, and I mean, my first take is chase the bloody men off their chairs. I mean,
But, you know,
and
it's like
so that
what everyone
sensitivity
wants to
for
achieve,
God.
And how can you achieve it? Because, for example, if you have a rural community and you want to introduce a health information system, so it works better to say, let's have a center where women maybe they do the washing or laundry, or so we can get them there, and we can facilitate. They can talk to each other. But we have, for example, a message from the Minister of Health that approves this, so there is not this concern that
And then
anyone
check with
else
the
is
local head whether it will be paid for the woman.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
It's
otherwise,
a very difficult, and this has been the problem with ICT for development issues, is this dropping of technology. It's not about the technology at all. It must be only an enabler or a means of access. You first need to establish what the situation
we map the power relations in the community. Nick Bidwell, she's in Namibia. She's on my Facebook page. She's done an amazing work in Namibia and in Eastern Cape, and that sensitivity of
Who's this person?
Nick. She's a female. Nick Bidwell, Bidwell. If you do Google Scholar, why don't you check whether she.
I'll check on your face.
Yeah, that's easier. Where she just shared exactly introducing mobile technology or a Vodacom tower or provided tower, and the tower was located in the compound of the local chief. And he had the power of a switch. He could decide which times of the day the switch would go on and off, and who will have access and who not. But that was the only way to get a foot in the door. So she wrote on that, and that's amazing stuff to just tread more carefully when I'm not sure where that fits in with your
It is,
original.
it's very
it is,
enlightening
yeah.
because you face the access to education to so many, and then you realize you run into all kinds of complexities, and it's not just the world of openness and everybody's eager and there's no obstacle, but all these social and cultural realities that give you access or hinder you.
I mean, we have
Well,
men
access.
burn their wives' uni study materials.
Oh, that's interesting, because that fits right
Yeah.
into this thing.
Yeah.
And the reason is,
Is-
you have a job and you're not doing your job, and now you're doing
Yeah.
this other stuff.
You're doing
It's
the
not
other-
going to make
and
you do
you
your job better.
And you're becoming more clever than
Yeah.
I am, and
that's the power thing.
and that's power.
And women
And-
that become more clever become problems.
Yeah, and Zuma doesn't like clever blacks anyway, so he's on record, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole thing is why play the white man's game? Yeah, so
Yeah.
so getting back to your when we the variables, while our intentions are very good, I hear you and I hear Sean and I hear myself that we really want to make a difference, to be that light for that person that has an inner light at that moment in time, and just to light up. But it's complicated.
Now I want to throw one last
Did you find
curveball.
Oh,
You
no,
found
this
it?
is something else. This is the model I was talking about now.
Oh yeah,
Share
oh yeah, please do.
Oh,
the
yeah.
different things that go into.
Ah,
Yes.
will you send it?
Excellent.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
One last curveball your way. Still focus on UNISA. Some of these things that we've discussed, the variables that have changed, where you don't need your teacher in the library as much as you used to, and the empowerment to access content and so forth, and educating yourself in many ways about many things that you were not able to do in the previous era. Starting with that context, many universities, Western Governors University is an example, and our Flex program is another example, and so forth, where